Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into the story of the American Postal Workers Union, the APWU, and specifically its really active presence right here in Kansas City, covering both Missouri and Kansas.
Yeah, it's quite a story.
You've given us this great stack of sources, articles, some notes, research, and our mission today is basically to unpack the history, figure out who the key players were, and, maybe surprisingly, look at the impact this union has had right here in the heartland. We want to get beyond just what the APWU does
Yeah.
and understand how its presence in Kansas City really shaped things for postal workers, obviously, but maybe even for the wider community. Get ready for some pretty interesting stuff, from historical milestones to some really unique partnerships.
And what's really compelling, I think, is how this lets us trace the evolution of, well, a genuinely powerful labor organization. You see its adaptability, its relevance in an industry that's still absolutely crucial for everyone. Mail delivery, right?
Absolutely. So, okay, let's kick things off right at the beginning. When did the APWU actually, come into being?
Well, the APWU itself was officially founded July 1st, 1971. It was basically born from merging 5 older postal unions together.
Okay.
And what that meant immediately was that the existing union locals right here in Missouri and Kansas, representing clerks, maintenance folks, motor vehicle employees, they all just combined under this new APWU banner, one big union.
And it sounds like Kansas City became, well, pretty important pretty quickly for this new union. What were some of those early things that cemented its role?
Oh, absolutely. Kansas City was central from the start. You see, just 3 years later, in 1974, the USPS opened a huge bulk mail center, a BMC, right here in the KC area. That was for handling all the parcels.
Right.
And that directly led to forming the Kansas-Kaw Valley Area Local, that's APWU Local 238, over in Kansas City, Kansas. It was specifically set up to represent those BMC workers and folks in nearby postal facilities.
Gotcha. So it wasn't just about local operations then. I heard Kansas City hosted something major pretty early on.
Indeed. Yeah, a really significant milestone was June 1975. The APWU held its first ever National Constitutional Convention right there in Kansas City, Missouri.
Wow. First ever.
First one. This wasn't just, a local get-together. It brought union delegates from all across the country. That really cemented Kansas City's importance on the national stage for the still pretty young union.
And for those brand new bulk mail centers,
Yeah.
that convention must have really put their issues on the map, didn't it?
It absolutely did. It meant BMC issues got national attention right away. And by 1980, the APWU locals representing those BMCs, including KC's Kansas-Kaw Valley local, they successfully pushed for regular national meetings just to address their specific concerns.
Yeah, they got their own platform.
Exactly. That led to annual bulk mail center conferences. And, Kansas City's importance just kept going. The area hosted that national BMC conference, again, much more recently, actually April 2023, over in Riverside, Missouri. Drew over 120 delegates from all 21 BMCs nationwide.
Okay, so with that history laid out, it's clear Kansas City was a powerhouse early on. But who are the people, driving this? Let's talk about the leaders who really shaped the union here.
Yeah, that's a crucial part of it. The late 1980s, for instance, they saw some pretty significant leadership changes in Kansas City's Local 67s, sometimes a bit contentious, actually.
Oh.
Well, you had Robert C. Bradley become president in '86 after a rerun election the Department of Labor had to supervise. But then he was narrowly beaten just 2 years later, in '88, by Daniel E. Petty. And Petty's win was upheld even after a disputed recount and appeals.
Contentious indeed.
Right. But Petty then led the greater Kansas City metro area local into the 90s. Rosemary Giglio was also a notable officer around then. These kinds of internal contests, while difficult, they often sharpen the union's focus.
Sure. Keeps people on their toes.
Exactly.
And looking at more recent leaders, who are the names that kind of stand out? Who's
Yes.
made a mark lately?
Well, what's really fascinating here is the visibility of leaders like Antoinette Tony Robinson. She was president of Local 67 from the 2010s up to the early 2020s, became a really prominent voice for postal workers.
I think I remember seeing her name.
Yeah, she notably spoke out during that 2014 Day of Action against proposed postal service cuts, really emphasized organizing across the whole metro area. Now, as of 2025, Darcy Wood has taken over as Local 67 president, Paulette Lindsay is VP, and Tony Robinson. She's actually moved into a statewide role, Director for Human Relations and Retirees for the Missouri Postal Workers Union.
Okay, so it sounds like Kansas City has also been a bit of a training ground
Yeah.
producing leaders who move up to state or even national levels.
Yeah, absolutely. If you connect this to the bigger picture, you look at the growth of the state unions, the Missouri Postal Workers Union, MPWU, and the Kansas one, KSPWU, especially in the 90s. Take Sharon Curtis. She started as Local 67's secretary-treasurer here in KC. Then she was appointed a national business agent, an NBA, that's like a regional rep for the St. Louis region. And now she's the elected president of the entire Missouri Postal Workers Union. That really shows KC's influence.
Definitely.
And over in Kansas, you have Emily Weber from Wichita. She's the current president of the Kansas Postal Workers Union. She got appointed an NBA in 2022, and get this, she became state president before she even turned 30, represents a whole new generation.
Wow.
Locally, you've got Ken France leading the Kansas Kaw Valley Local 238 over in KCK, Shawnee Mission, that area. Sharon Cushion is VP, Paul Hill is secretary-treasurer, plus the APWU Central Regional Coordinator, Jeffrey Beaton. He's an NBA overseeing several Midwest states. He's actually based right nearby in Overland Park, Kansas. So there's a direct line to national support for the whole region.
So beyond the internal leadership, how has the APWU here in KC really shown its influence, maybe on a broader regional level?
That's a really important question about their wider impact. So back in 2018, APWU locals in Missouri, including Kansas City's, they joined this really broad labor coalition, their goal, to defeat a statewide right-to-work law.
Oh, okay. That was a big
A
fight.
huge fight. And they won. Voters overwhelmingly repealed it. 99 out of 114 Missouri counties voted against it. That kind of activism showed their influence went way beyond just postal issues, right? It showed they could mobilize and shape statewide policy.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, during the really tough times of the COVID-19 pandemic and all the USPS operational chaos in 2021, the locals in both states, KC Local 67, Kaw Valley Local 238, they rallied hard, protecting employee safety, service standards, holding public rallies, giving media interviews about staffing shortages, challenging USPS policies.
By keeping the pressure on.
Exactly. And they keep coordinating on things like rallies and political lobbying. You saw them participating jointly in the 2024 National Day of Action.
So beyond the people and the politics, where does all this union activity actually happen in KC? Are there specific buildings or hubs?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The greater KC metro area, Local 67, they own their own union hall. It's pretty significant over at 3824 East 16th Street in KCMO.
Yeah.
This APWU building, it's been their central hub for decades. Monthly membership meetings, training, community events. It really symbolizes their long presence.
And on the Kansas side, Local 238.
Right. The Kansas Kaw Valley Local, they use the Irene B. French Community Center. It's at 5701 Merriam Drive in Merriam, Kansas. It's convenient, located near the Shawnee and Mission postal facilities, so it works well for their monthly meetings.
Makes sense.
And while the state organization, the Missouri Postal Workers Union, doesn't have one single statewide HQ, its officers often work out of their home locals. So the Local 67 Hall in KCMO, it frequently ends up being a meeting place for statewide stuff, too. Oh, and there's also that APWU Central Region office presence we mentioned out in Overland Park.
Got it. So when we talk about the APWU representing workers, what kinds of jobs or crafts, as you call them, are we actually talking about inside the Postal Service here in KC? Which ones are the most common?
Okay, so the APWU represents employees across 4 main craft divisions. You've got clerk, maintenance, motor vehicle service, or MVS, and support services. All 4 are present here in Kansas City, but some are definitely bigger than others.
Okay, so which craft is maybe the most visible, the one we might interact with?
That would absolutely be the clerk craft, no question. It's usually the largest group by far.
Okay.
This includes the mail processing clerks, the ones sorting mountains of mail in the big plants like the Kansas City P&DC Processing and Distribution Center. And it also includes the retail clerks who help you at the post office counter.
Right.
And you got to think about the work. Mail processing clerks, they're lifting heavy tubs, operating machinery, doing really repetitive sorting motions for hours. It's physically demanding.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So it's not surprising they often deal with injuries like back strain or carpal tunnel syndrome is a big one too. Clerks make up the majority of APWU members, both nationally and here in KC. And both Local 67 and 238 have elected clerk craft directors specifically to handle their issues.
Okay. And then what about the people keeping everything running, sort of behind the scenes?
Right. That's the maintenance craft. These are essential folks. We're talking custodians, building maintenance workers, and really importantly, the mechanics who maintain all that complex mail processing equipment.
Ah, keeping the machines going.
Exactly. They're vital at the big facilities like the PNDC, the Bulk Mail Center, and also the Vehicle Maintenance Facility, the VMF, over in KCK, where they service the postal trucks. Maintenance is the second largest group APWU represents. Jobs like electronic technicians, mechanics, they face their own physical tasks and hazards, so you hear about concerns with knee injuries, shoulder injuries.
And then the actual movement of mail between places.
Precisely. That's the Motor Vehicle Service Craft, or MVS. These are the postal truck drivers you see, and also the mechanics who maintain the USPS fleet. They might be smaller in number compared to clerks or maintenance.
But crucial.
Absolutely crucial for logistics, especially at places like the James Cruise VMF in KCK, and for running those long-haul routes between cities. MVS employees, they face specific challenges, like really long driving hours, which, as you can guess, often leads to back problems.
Makes sense. And finally, support services.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of broad. What does that cover around here?
Yeah, support services is the smallest division, but it covers some important specialized roles. In our region, you've got employees at the Western Area Supply Center and the Topeka Material Distribution Center, both over in Topeka, Kansas. They handle supplies and materials for postal ops.
Right.
Now, Kansas City itself doesn't have one of the big IT or accounting service centers. St. Louis has the regional one for that. But APWU does represent postal nurses here in KC. And this is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
They also represent some private contractor truck drivers.
Really, not actual USPS employees.
Right. So APWU actually supports drivers working for companies like Pat Salmon and Sons or Mail Contractors of America, MCA. These folks haul mail under contract for the USPS in Kansas City, Missouri. They have separate agreements, obviously, but they still get APWU support.
Huh. Okay. So with all these different crafts, what does that mean for how the union actually works day-to-day locally?
Well, in practice, a lot of APWU activity here in KC really centers on clerk and maintenance concerns, staffing levels for mail processing machines, building safety issues, things like that. Motor vehicle operations are a close second. And the union's local structure reflects that. They have dedicated craft directors for each division to make sure those specific issues get addressed properly. So, for example, they might handle ergonomic grievances for clerks, like trying to get workstations adjusted to reduce neck strain, or safety grievances for maintenance staff, making sure lockout procedures on equipment are followed, or maybe schedule disputes for the MVS drivers. This kind of craft-by-craft focus is really a hallmark of how APWU represents its members effectively here.
That focus on member well-being, it leads us to something really interesting, because you found this unique partnership with a specific community provider, Restore Muscle and Joint. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is a fascinating piece of the puzzle. Restore Muscle and Joint, it's a clinic up in the Northland of Kansas City, Missouri, and they've become pretty well known specifically for helping APW members who've had work-related injuries. And maybe just as importantly, helping them navigate the often tricky federal workers' compensation system. They actually market themselves explicitly as USPS certified for treating postal worker injuries. That right there tells you they specialize.
So they don't just treat injuries generically, they actually get the specific physical demands of postal work, like craft by craft.
Exactly. That's the key. They're doctors, they're therapists. They are intimately familiar with what postal workers do all day. They can talk about specific injury patterns, like the back injuries you see with mail handlers or MVS drivers, right?
Yeah.
Or the neck pain clerks get from looking down, sorting mail constantly, shoulder injuries from all that repetitive reaching and lifting, knee pain from walking on concrete floors all day. And they target these things with specific therapies, chiropractic, physical therapy. They've helped, dozens of postal workers reduce pain, get back to work, and sometimes even avoid surgery altogether.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And dealing with workers' comp, especially the federal system, that can be a nightmare. How does this clinic help with that part?
Oh, that's a critical point, because injured postal employees, they often really struggle with the Office of Workers' Compensation Programs, OWCP. It's notoriously complex.
Right.
Restore Muscle and Joint basically acts as a crucial ally here. They call themselves a federal injury center and an OWCP physician office. They essentially guide workers through that whole maze, making sure the right forms are filled out correctly, providing the detailed medical documentation OWCP requires. They emphasize getting evidence from certified USPS or Department of Labor federal work comp doctors.
So they know exactly what the government needs to see.
Precisely. And if a claim gets denied initially, their staff, and they have affiliate attorneys too, they help with the appeals process. This kind of support is just invaluable. Honestly, that's why a lot of union officers informally refer members there. They know the clinic has expertise in documenting postal injuries the right way to get claims approved. They even have their own podcast trying to demystify OWCP for federal workers.
It really sounds like they take a huge administrative burden off the injured workers' shoulders.
Absolutely. Being USPS certified, it means their doctors know those DOL forms, the CA1s, the CA2s inside and out. They know the specific terminology OWCP is looking for. They offer, quote, dedicated programs for rapid diagnosis and treatment to minimize downtime, specifically for USPS employees. That means getting quicker access to MRIs or specialists, providing work status notes that meet USPS requirements. Having this OWCP-savvy medical staff saves injured workers from that frustrating task of trying to educate their own family doctor about all the federal hoops they need to jump through.
So what really stands out about their impact on APWU members? Do we know how many people they've helped?
Well, they don't publish exact numbers, but if you look at local APWU newsletters, social media chatter, you definitely see mentions that dozens of union members have used Restore Muscle and Joint.
Right.
The compensation officers in the KC Local, they informally recommend the clinic, especially for complex injuries, not just for the treatment, but specifically for their skill in managing the OWCP claim all the way to approval. We've seen a lot of positive feedback from members saying they avoided surgery, got back to work successfully, sometimes feeling even better. Their focus on newer therapies seems particularly helpful for maybe older postal workers dealing with chronic pain. Some testimonials talk about really life-changing results for long-standing issues.
And they even tailor the rehab to the specific job the person does, right?
Yes, and that's crucial. They provide craft-specific rehabilitation. So, okay, say you have a mail processing clerk with a shoulder injury from casing mail all day. Their therapist will actually simulate those movements, like reaching up to the case shelves as part of the therapy. Or for an MVS driver with lower back pain, they'll focus on core stabilization exercises specifically needed for sitting and driving long hours. They also do ergonomic assessments looking at neck pain from sorting or knee pain from walking routes. It means APWU members get therapy that genuinely considers their actual postal job duties, which makes the recovery much more targeted and effective.
So, boiling it down, what does this partnership really mean for APWU members here in Kansas City?
In summary, Restore Muscle and Joint has really become this incredibly valued resource. They help a lot of injured workers get timely, effective care and get their OWCP claims approved, all because they deeply understand postal work and that complex federal comp system. This kind of informal partnership, between the union and the clinic, it just highlights this shared goal, making sure folks who work hard for the Postal Service get the expert care and support they really need when they get hurt on the job.
Wow. We've really taken a comprehensive look into the world of the American Postal Workers Union right here in Kansas City today. From those early foundational moments back in the 70s, all the way to their ongoing advocacy now. We've seen how this union grew, how it fostered strong local leaders, and how it maintains this really tangible presence in the community, with its union halls and representing all those different job crafts.
Yeah, and we also explored how that commitment to the members goes way beyond just bargaining contracts.
Yeah.
It includes fostering these unique and really powerful partnerships, like the one with Restore Muscle and Joint, making sure injured workers get the support they need to recover and navigate those incredibly complex federal systems.
The whole story of the APWU in Kansas City,
Sure.
it's just a powerful reminder, I think, of how collective action, how dedicated leadership can genuinely shape people's lives and influence policy both locally and even nationally, sometimes in ways we don't always see right away.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? What is this whole intricate network? Local activism, national connections, these community partnerships, what does it all mean for the future of something as essential as mail delivery and for the workers who make it happen every single day? And maybe what other unseen networks like this are quietly supporting the crucial services we rely on in our daily lives, often without a second thought? That's something we encourage you to maybe ponder as you go about